Okay, I want to share why I do not care how many likes, comments, or views my stuff gets and what to care about more instead, okay? So, long story short, I've been a social media manager and ad strategist for, oh my gosh, going on 7 years, which is so crazy. More specifically, going on ads 2 years, but ongoing the organic side for 7 years. And one of the things is that I think people forget about is virality does not equal more money. All right, so I was able to grow my first TikTok to 30,000 followers in 60 days. And it maybe translated to $12,000 in sales over the course of a year. After I built it, I didn't really do a lot with it. And in the course of a year, it made me like $12,000, which for some people is like, oh my God, that's amazing. But it was actually my lowest performing financially platform. Whereas my Instagram, I had 200 followers and had my first $20,000 launch. So that is like a very big difference. 200 followers and $20,000 launch, and then 30,000 followers and $12,000. Like, you know what I mean? Both great money. I'm so grateful for both of them. And that was one specific launch, and this was over the course of a year. Okay, so the launch was in like 3-week span. This was in a $12,000 within like a year span. I hope you're picking up what I'm writing down. And so, anywho, what was really apparent to me was that the virality did not equate to actual conversions. But I'll tell you what did equate to actual conversions was, number one, actually attracting the right ideal client. Number two was capturing this ideal client. And number three was actually being able to convert them. So the attracting is where you get really specific with your content and being able to call in a very specific ideal client. And what I mean by this is you're like, okay, you're saying attracting, you're saying attract. What does that actually mean? So what I mean is you can post content. Let's just use the example of like a marriage coach. You can call in people who are married or you know, common law, whatever that may be. You can call in people who are married or who are in a very long-term relationship, but you might not be calling in the right people who are like willing to do the work on their relationship or on themselves. And that makes a really, really big difference in the type of person. If I'm calling in someone who is unwilling to do work on themselves or like willing to admit that they've done like do wrong things in their relationship, that's not going to be an ideal client. But what would be an ideal client is if I was able to call in a couple who are willing to admit there's work on both ends that they could do. Like that same demographic, two very different type of couples. These two things, they do no wrong, they're perfect, and then these two are willing to admit that they're human and there's always room to grow. So by creating content that pulls in the people who are like, I want to learn how I can grow and have a more soulful relationship and like be able to meet my wife, meet my partner, meet my husband where they're at, that's going to be a very different type of ideal client or a different type of client you're calling in versus the one that's like, I don't know wrong. It's all him. It's all her. She does wrong. Blah, blah, blah. Like two very different ideal clients talking to the same type of individual. The individual is married to very different groups. Does that make sense? So that is the attraction side, is like that comes to positioning, that comes to the type of content. I'll give you another example. I could create content for moms, right? Overwhelmed moms. There's going to be two groups of people. The people who are really resonating that with their identity and have no interest in changing. And there's going to be the people over here who recognize this isn't the season that they want to stay in forever and are interested to hear on how they can make shifts. So there's the people who honestly are probably not interested in changing, and they're going to be unfortunately the type of people that are always just going to have chaos going around them, like a mini tornado. That's who they are. And then there's the people over here who might be going through a rough season, a rough time, maybe postpartum, but they are interested in change. So you can be talking to parents, specifically mothers, and you have to be mindful of the type of content and who it's bringing in. So that's step one. Because if you're bringing in the wrong, like you could be, like I said, I think I pulled in the wrong type of clientele. So if I brought in 30,000 people who are not my true ideal client, you're not going to have those conversions. So the attraction is like, it comes down to the positioning of like how you're positioning the work that you do. So that is where like the problem awareness and how you're positioning it. So if we know the problem is for the parenting, for example, if the problem is the chronic overwhelms, the positioning is how we're able to address it and shift it. So we're not resonating with like the victim mentality or like the identity in that. And we were wanting to kind of shift over here when it comes to like actually having power in this. Like, I know you're in a difficult season, but there is power and you have the ability to make a change, right? So two very, very different ways to position that. So step one is the attraction. How and who are you attracting, and how can we look at this type of content? The second thing is going to be the capturing. So the capturing for me looks like actually getting their email For me, it's so important to have emails because I've actually had an Instagram shut down. I had about almost 4,000 Instagram followers, and I was in the middle of a launch and predicted launch, like even with a low conversion, it was going to be a $20,000 launch, and I was so frustrated. I literally cried over it. I didn't actually get into that Instagram until 4 years later. So crazy. Anyhow, not the point of this. If I had their emails, it would have been a much different circumstance. I do a lot of sales through my email. I am able to meet literally thousands of new individuals every single month, which is so crazy. Same with my clients. Like, I'm an ad strategist, specifically a lead generating strategist, where we bring in actual ideal clients. So using this method that I'm showing you that you can do organic, you can do with your ads. But anywho, it's the converting. I want their name and email, and I want to be able to send them the resource. And then actually, here's the key part when it comes to it. Once you capture them, you want to nurture them. That is something that I think a lot of business owners are not doing, is properly nurturing them. When someone comes in, yeah, of course, I'm going to talk about my membership. Like, when you watch YouTube videos are a way of nurturing. Like, yeah, when you come into my content, I'm going to, like, in my funnels, I'm going to have sales. I'm a business, but I'm going to spend a lot more time nurturing you than I am pitching you, because otherwise, like, that's not the vibe. You're not going to want a relationship with me, and that's not going to be beneficial for you. I want you to walk away from my emails. My emails are full of different types of tips, tricks, and hacks on how to grow organically and with ads, right? And so, anywho, taking a step back, make sure that you're actually nurturing your ideal clients through your content. Like, actually make your content helpful. And then also, when it comes to your emails, don't just be like 24/7 pitching them. There's a difference between a launch and there's a difference between having like long-term content. Anywho, so when you capture them, you want a nurturing process. This might be like sending them to your YouTube. It might be sending them to like the podcast or whatever that may be, but like actually having a nurture process in place that is actually supportive for growing that. Because otherwise what you're doing is you're bringing them in, especially when you're doing a specific type of ad campaign. You want to make sure that you're keeping them long term, which is really important. So anyhow, attracting, that comes a lot to the positioning of the content. And then when it comes to nurturing, capturing and nurturing them, having a good strategy in place. Like I said, this can just be content, but it's really important to have their name and email. And like a lot of the people who come in, like if you want to take a peek at what my nurture strategy looks like, opt into one of the, I know that's like weird, but like opt into one of my freebies and you can see my funnel. And I actually am going to do an entire behind the scene walkthrough of how I set up my campaign so you can see my emails. It is very focused on nurturing. I'm like, in one of them, I talked about how I hatched baby quail in my office and what that taught me. And just a little bit about who I am and like what I'm up to. And like, it's very focused on nurturing, but there's also nuggets of like, here's a resource for you. Here's a YouTube video I think would be supportive, and really nurturing them before I ever ask for the sale. And I think that's a huge thing. So I have, if you look at my likes and comments and everything, I have more people in my membership. I have more people in my courses. I have more clients than I ever could, like combined with like likes, unless it's a viral video, but of a normal post. And I don't care about how many likes or comments or views I have, because I have like this email system set up and because I have client retention. When you buy something from me, it is what I say it's going to be. You're not blindsided. You are not surprised. You are paying, well, surprised in the sense that you get like extra love and care for me, I will say, or like, oh, I thought I could have this result, but actually having it is different. But you're not surprised in the sense that you aren't being over promised and under delivered. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm promising this base level and I try to exceed over here. It's always going to be above where I told you it was going to be. Under promise, over deliver. Anywho, it's the client retention. I've been in business for 7 years. There's a reason why I have a high client retention. And that's why I don't care about the likes and comments, because I know when someone comes into our world, they hire me, they work with me, they buy something from me, it is helpful. And so if you want a business where it's easy to grow and you're not reliant on people liking and commenting your stuff and like in hopes that people are going to buy, it's from that client retention and actually making sure you're following through with what you're saying. So anywho, the attraction, talked about that. The capturing, and what to do when you capture is nurturing, right? And then we can talk about conversion. Once you have a warm, like we always say, you would never expect someone to marry you on a first date. I would never expect someone I met, like another mom, to have a slumber party with me on our first date, our first play date. She'd be like, WTF, what are you talking about, right? Like, and so it's important to gradually have dates with your ideal clients, which is going to be like, personally, if you want to quicken the speed, offer free calls. And I know that's like a huge thing, is I'm going to talk about this in another video, so definitely stay tuned, but it's like, how do I scale quick without having to do any work? Like, that's a huge thing. And I think there's a difference between scaling with ease and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I feel like a lot of people in business right now aren't willing to do a lot of work to scale and get the results they want. They're like, how can I just like flip the switch and get what I want? And there's a lot of work that goes into it. I know I talked about more of the energetics behind how I 10 times my business. Definitely go check out that video, but I have other like strategic things that I've done, and I'm going to talk more about that. But anyway, really quickly, if you want to grow really quickly, offer free calls. I'm not kidding. I probably close 80 to 90% of the calls that I'm on, and I'm really grateful for that. So if I ever have like a huge cold audience, I'm going to offer 10, probably, but I've 10 to 15 calls. And I know for a lot of people, like, that's a lot, but I mean, sometimes it's the name of the game. And it converts really, really quickly into an offering because they actually get the opportunity to speak to me. But if we're talking completely passively, I look at each email that they're receiving as like a mini date, a mini like introduction to who I am. Every content out there is a touch point. Every Instagram story, every YouTube video they see, every post, every email, all of that is almost like a symbolism of like a date before I ask them to marry me. And one of my clients, she actually purchased a just a taste test of my work, and we're working together for a couple months, and she's like, I just want to date you before I marry you. And I was like, valid. I could totally understand that. That's very valid. So anywho, this is like why I just want to go back to this, is like, I don't care how many likes or comments I get. I don't care about how many saves or shares, although it is a good indicator that people enjoy your content. There's a lot of goodness in there, but the reason I don't like worry about that, and like I've had a couple of my Instagram stuff get like 200 views, but I'm not going to get worked up about it because I have more people in my courses and who have bought from me and who are currently working with me, and my business has recurring revenue, and it's because of the way I was able to serve them. And also, I'm always having new leads come in, right? I'm always attracting new leads. I'm always capturing them, nurturing them, and converting it. It is a consistent cycle. I actually have a workshop on how to become a 24/7 lead machine. I think you would really love that. Go watch it. I'm going to try to like remember to put it in here. And it's really important to me that people set their businesses up this way, because I think it's a conversation that people aren't having all the time, is like actually what to care about, what metrics to actually give a blank about in their business is going to be conversion, of course, and it's going to be retention. And I know the conversation is like, okay, but if I can't like get people in the doors, how am I going to convert them? So like it comes back to this. Go watch the lead generation strategy. I talk so much more about like how to actually pick your lead magnet, which is like usually a freebie. An example, like I said, literally go get one of the workshops below. They're free. And you can see my strategy and the way that I have things systemized. I'm also going to have another video. So if I'm probably going to have this video up first before, so like stay tuned for that. I'll have it relatively up quick. If you're watching this now and you can't find the video on my page, it'll probably be up in like a week. So definitely stay tuned. And so anyways, I'm going to show you the exact behind the scenes system, because I think this is, once again, a conversation that a lot of people aren't having, but I'm willing to have. I'm willing to have these open conversations. So I'm going to have like the full walkthrough of how I do it start to finish, so that you guys can feel supported. And if you're like, don't want to wait, my membership, Become a Content Queen, I have tons of this kind of stuff already in it, already like step 1, step 2, step 3. And so you could just go ahead and go take a peek there. But I had a couple other notes, but it's interesting too, because the likes and comments almost mean nothing to me, because a lot of the people who buy from me have never liked anything, they've never followed me, and they've never commented on anything. So I'm not getting my feathers all ruffled because of the virality. I've gone viral in both sense. I mean, on TikTok, I get anywhere between 100,000 views plus every single month. But what's actually making me money is people coming in and being captured via email and actually going through the system. So it's like, I've talked about this. Step 1, actually talking to the right ideal client. Number 2, being able to nurture, capture them so that you can nurture them and then convert. So I guess it's a 4-part system, but it's just like, I feel like, once again, it's not a conversation a lot of people are having. So I would love if you would like, subscribe, go look at the other stuff that I'm going to be putting out there. And my nose is running because it's so chilly here. It just snowed again. It's literally April. Why is it snowing? It's the end of April. Why is it snowing? So anywho, I'm so grateful for you guys, and hope you have a wonderful day.